on this chair. Oh, for tonight. Okay. Hello, Juanita. Oh, Juanita, you have to unmute before you can. Oh, I see you've unmuted. Okay. See if I can hear you.
Yes.
Ah, hello.
I need the address again. Somehow it's not in my that email. I don't know what happened to it, but anyway.
So when you asked me to send it, I thought you meant for next Wednesday.
No, I
And
couldn't.
so that's why I didn't send it back right away. And then I saw the second one and I thought, oh, she means tonight. So glad you persevered.
Does it change other times? I mean, is it a steady one I can use?
No, I do a new one for each.
Oh, that's what it was.
conversation.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I didn't have it. Okay, thought I was losing it. Okay.
No, not quite.
I started already?
I think I'm losing it several times a week or day.
Okay.
You are not alone.
Have you all started already?
No,
Oh,
you're the
oh.
first one in, so we're supposed to start at 7:30, so I'm expecting people to be popping on. right
Oh,
now.
I thought
Since
I had
it's
it
not a
down.
course, people aren't quite so,
Mhm. I
early
thought it
or,
was 7.
well prepared. Yeah. No, 7:30.
Okay.
So can you show your video or do you not want to show it tonight?
Let me see if I can get this camera working. My computer is acting a little crazy. Let's see. Oh, video, okay. Oh, come on.
There
Okay.
you go.
Mhm.
Oh.
Hi there. It's rushing in. Okay.
This is what I do. I see myself and I start going like this.
Yes, I said, oh goodness, ahead of mine.
Yeah. Yeah. I gave a course from Hawaii to Taiwan this summer
Oh, how nice.
because they had to close their borders because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And we have been doing this Zoom for a year, but it was new to them. That had just started like a couple months previous. So people didn't know how to do anything on Zoom. We were coaching them along. Tip your screen down. Oh, that's too far down. Tip it up. All that kind of stuff. It just went on and on. But they got pretty good by the end. It was a great group. A
Oh,
lot of fun.
I'm still, mastering it myself.
I know that there are tricks, I could be using, as I present things that I don't know about. I mean, I sort of have heard other people talk about things and I haven't.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't learned any of them. So
I have a question for you. Since my church is not open, I was thinking, is there pods in the Center of Children Theology that we can use that I can possibly share with the parents? Like right now, I'm getting ready to send them a packet on setting up a prayer table and trying to deal with a domestic church of the home, and wondering if there's a pod or something that I could, share with them, or how do we do that?
you know who is running a pod? I think this might be what you mean is Devet.
Okay.
So she's gathering people who are in churches that either aren't open or have very small numbers.
So I
And
should
you're-
contact her.
You
Okay,
should
she's my
contact
level
her.
1 catechist. So
Mhm.
okay. I traveled from one time Chesapeake
Uh-huh.
up to her, and then
Good.
okay.
Yeah, I know she knows you. So
Mhm.
she would be a good resource.
Okay, I'll check with her because I think that would make me a little bit more connected to them.
That's right.
Because I thought we were opening up in September, and then we got the word that with the Delta, they're not going to do it
Mhm.
after January, and I'm saying,
Oh, yeah.
my-
Yeah, it all feels it feels less secure or less sure than it did at the beginning of the summer.
and now you don't know who's been vaccinated, who
You
hasn't.
don't, and you don't know if you're going to get something, if you've got a breakthrough case yeah, it's crazy. Hello, Reverend Powell.
She's getting settled in.
How are you?
So next week, you're going to just go ahead and send us the website or the password to get in.
It's the same password as in one of your early, on Wednesdays, we're using the same one, but these conversations use different ones. So you have that, but I'll just make a note to resend it to the whole group, then they'll have a more recent one.
Okay.
Was making myself notes and hope I see them. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Catherine.
You don't have to wear your mask.
Yeah.
How's that? That's nice, huh?
It is nice, I know. I have this terrible habit now of taking my mask off when I go into a building thinking I'm at home, and I just sort of start to take it off if I get outside. Hi, Tori.
Hi.
Hi, Tori and Juanita.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, Juanita. It is so nice to see you again.
Yes, same here.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi.
And Catherine.
And neither of us are switching to anything else. We're just going to be both be Catherine.
Mhm.
I'll take credit for anything she says. Hi, Mary Pat.
Hi.
So we meet again 2 nights in a row.
Hi.
I've tried multiple times to talk about saints with the kids, and I've never been really happy with how it went. So I'm grateful to listen to people tonight.
Well, that might be very valuable information. I mean, I think the tendency of people in saint churches, is, yes, we have to introduce the saints, but, when is the right time, or is that really needed, or, so.
I thought I had a good idea when I thought of using a child from the parish as a model for a saint, and
Mm.
kids kind of didn't get it. She died of leukemia,
Oh.
and she was a part of the parish life for, since she was
Mhm.
born. So
Mhm.
anyway,
Wow.
putting that aside.
Yeah, we use a pretty broad definition of what makes a saint a saint. Yeah. Hi,
Mhm.
Elizabeth.
Hey,
Now, are you here as an Episcopalian or a Methodist with saints?
kind of a mix. Because I really had to ponder some of this last year with this
Mhm.
whole thing.
Mhm.
Because Methodists have an extremely broad thought process for saints.
Oh, that's good. I think. Of course, it multiplies your work, right?
Yeah, choosing which ones to bring
Yeah.
forth is the key
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, yeah. Did anyone bring any books or names of books along that they have really thought were great resources? We can put those into the chat anytime tonight.
Okay.
I brought one that I like, and then we have a parishioner who has written saints books for kids, or religious kinds of books. So
Mhm.
I forgot to bring them from church.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I have her name at least. So
Yeah, that would be good.
I
Tori?
brought a picture from my culture. It's in a traditional Hispanic tin work frame from New Mexico. And this is an old retablo of St. Peter.
Hmm. He was a
Um,
musician, or is that his key?
that is his key.
Looks
I
like
thought
he's
he was
holding
a
a banjo.
musician too.
Um, I brought,
I have another thing to share. This also
Oh.
is from a santero, actually a woman's santero in northern New Mexico. And it's
Beautiful.
pretty obvious who he
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
He has his agave leaves.
Mhm. It's beautiful. It's so graceful.
Mm. So I grew up in a culture where the saints were all around us.
Mhm. Mhm.
And even a graveyard is called a camposanto.
Mhm. Mhm.
So a field of saints
Mhm.
or a holy field.
Mhm.
Um,
Sophia was working in Rome, and of course, there's a million churches named after a million saints in Rome. And I was there one time, and one of the Canadians was there for a meeting, and she said, "Well, I've learned how to swear in Italian." And she said, when they get really mad, they just start to say, Santa Maria, Santa this, Santa that, go on and on. So that was her experience of the saints in the Italian culture. But it seems to me that Sophia would have been started out pretty open to having more on the saints than she actually does. considering the milieu of her work. Kind of surprises me.
Mhm.
I have a
think-
couple of dishes that this is Let the Children Come.
Oh, nice. Look at that.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yes.
I think it was made in 1991.
Uh-huh.
Jesus Had Compassion on Them and Blessed Are the Children series.
Uh-huh.
And then I have the Lord's
Oh,
Supper.
don't break it.
I wasn't break it. Can you see the Lord's Supper?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
By the same artist.
Yes.
Mhm. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I thought we should begin with the litany of the saints. What do you think? We could each offer one saint who has in some way been a companion to us and ask for just say their name and we can all say, pray for us,
Saint Agnes.
pray for us.
Saint Michael.
Pray for us,
Pray for us.
St. Augustine.
pray for
Pray for
us.
us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Catherine.
Ah, this
We're doing the litany of the saints, Polly.
is fun.
If you have a favorite, you can just say it.
Oh. Hmm.
Elizabeth, you suggested Catherine.
Actually, Michael,
That's
the
Saint
archangel.
Catherine.
Pray for us.
Pray for us. I'm going to say Saint John the 23rd. Pray for us.
Pray for us.
Saint Kateri Tekakwitha.
Pray for us. So I thought we would do this conversation in the same way that I do a lot of these conversations, which is right through the three, age groups that we work with, and see how that understanding of what is appropriate for any age to talk about saints as we move up. And I'm happy to share what I do, but I'd also like to share your perspectives, what you've learned, what hasn't worked, what has worked, and see what we can learn from any of it. And also any resources that have helped you with this along the way. I was saying before, I thought that being emerging out of Rome would have set the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd up to have a lot more about saints than it does. And so I can only guess that they tried things and then didn't keep them, rather than to assume that they never even thought to say anything about saints. So that I think that's a starting point for all of us, is why isn't there more? And have we tried to fix that, and have we been satisfied with that, or do we agree with where we are? Just starting with age 3 to 6, which is a pretty easy age to know, what we're actually able to offer.
Oh, darling.
So one of my first thoughts was, if your church is named for a saint, that would be an appropriate introduction, even in a 3 to 6 atrium. If all the children are attending a church like yours Saint Agnes.
Mhm.
Who is she? Why does she have a church named after her?
Yeah.
In language that's somewhat appropriate, for 3 to 6-year-olds.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I would be expecting a devotion to be nurtured or anything like that, but just the power of language and, and empowering children, with the language of their community, and that certainly be part of it.
Mhm. Yeah, we have Devette gave me a lovely print of Saint Agnes as a gift,
Mhm,
and that will be in our atrium.
mhm,
And we can just point it out to the
Mhm.
children, saying,
mhm.
this is the little girl our church is named after.
Mhm.
She was 13 when she decided that she would rather live by her faith than have to give it up.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's an example of a very young person deciding
Mhm.
to trust to the Holy Spirit.
Mhm.
I think there's something to be pondered in how we present material, in that the 3 to 6 is pre-moral, and
Mhm.
often we use saints to help us understand moral behavior. And 3 to 6 is all about values and joy and love
Mhm.
and all those things.
Mhm.
I wonder if it's something to be, I don't want to say careful, but to be cognizant of.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a really,
how our devotional acts might be very different.
Mhm.
I don't know. I've never tried. We've never discussed saints with my level 0 or 1
Mhm.
kids. So
Mhm. Mhm.
except for Saint Nicholas, but we haven't really done a lot with that. We're just trying so hard just to go Saint Nicholas and get out of Santa Claus.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Saint Agnes is a good one because of course, her symbol is the lamb.
Mm.
So pictures of Saint Agnes have a lamb. So that's
Mm.
really nice.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the children see that every time they walk into the church. It's a big mural with all kinds of saints on it.
Baptists, we don't really follow the saints.
Mhm.
But we know our African saints,
Mhm. Mhm.
Fortunately, I was stationed in Egypt and was able to go to the monasteries and stuff like that and experience it. But I mean, I happen to know about it, but my congregation is
Mhm.
pretty
Mhm.
Baptist.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mhm. Well, that backs us up into perhaps a conversation we should have done first, which is who do you count as saints? So
Yes,
saint means holy, right?
holy,
So
yes.
basically, we're looking, who are the holy people, right? And it could be that we're looking for them as a model or for help of some kind.
Mhm.
But I think when the church said at some point, we're not sure St. Patrick really is a real person and a real saint. I just thought, well, nobody cares.
He's
I mean,
very
then
real in
they'll-
Ireland.
And then they'll, proclaim a saint, and you're like, as though nobody knew that already. I mean, we weren't waiting for you. We know who holy people are, right?
Mhm.
So, so I'm pretty broad. The saint that I mentioned was John the 23rd, and that was because on my first trip to Rome, I went under, the St. Peter's, and he's buried there. And I was sort of walking by his chapel, and then I went into it where he's buried, and I just realized that I don't think I would be a Catholic without him having moved us, from one pre-Vatican to post-Vatican. I mean, it's all just named after what he did. And yeah, I think I think I would have some faith, but I don't think I would call myself a Catholic if it weren't for that move. So I felt very grateful when I was there.
Catherine, there's a book in the atrium that is like saints. It's a book of saints, and it's by date, and it includes people like the Starry Night. Beethoven. Yeah. And I've often just invited children to, we've started with the conversation, and these would be 9 to 12, of course.
Yeah.
What do you think a saint would be? What kind of things might a saint, what kind of characteristics might a saint have?
Yeah.
And so it started out being very wide range.
Yeah, the kids are very wide when you have that conversation,
Yeah.
even at 6 to 9. So Juanita, thinking of that very wide, and the holy ones, and our, also all souls, people kind of mix them up or mix them into the mix, of all those people who have passed into the grace of God,
Right.
So
Mother Teresa, I view as Desmond Tutu,
Mhm.
Yeah.
He always gets named.
yeah,
And Gandhi.
Gandhi.
Gandhi gets named.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are the ones I look at, and
Mhm.
trying to remember the monk I met at the monastery at Mount Sinai, but I don't remember his name right now.
Mhm.
But there are some really holy people.
Yeah.
So I met one this month, Brother Muhammad.
Oh.
Okay.
We had a really nice, lovely, long talk outdoors.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I think that he and I left in pretty much agreement that you absolutely don't have to be a Christian to be a person of God.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So then back to our 3 to 6-year-olds, the other group of saints I thought might be fair game. Well, there's 2 other groups. One is if children are named for a saint and baptized, with that name for. So my saint, so my name is Catherine Elizabeth. 3 of my great grandmothers are Catherine Elizabeth, but my parents said, "Oh, you're named for Saint Catherine of Siena." And then I went to Howard, and I said, he asked the whole class, this teacher at Howard, who are you named for? What saint? And I said, Saint Catherine. And he said, Saint Catherine of Alexandria or Saint Catherine of Siena? And I was like, oh, I never even heard about her, Saint Catherine of Alexandria. So I can claim her as well. Right? But some children are aware, and their families celebrate the day of their saint, and they call it their saint day. And I don't know if you have kids in your atrium that have those kinds of celebrations.
It's a good, my 9 to 12-year-olds who have discovered saints this year, I've never had a big group of people interested in saints before. Well, I signed on for this. But yeah, they like this idea of, oh, you could have 2 days, your day that you were born and then the day of your saint. And that sounded pretty good to them.
Another day to celebrate. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then the other saints, which definitely are introduced, are those saints those people that we call saints, who are the biblical people, right around the life of Jesus: Mary, Joseph, Simeon, Anna, apostles, Mary of Magdalene, and so on. And so as the children encounter these people, I only use their name, like Mary and Joseph, or Simeon and Anna. I don't say saint, but they are being introduced to saints. And I am, conscious of that. So there's more possibilities in 3 to 6 than you would expect, but still more naming than anything else.
Mm.
I think the main deal in 3 to 6 is Jesus. There's no need to move too far past that. But there are catechists with very devout saint devotions, and it is often based on culture. Saint Nicholas, how is that celebrated? Saint Lucy, a lot of them come in December.
I think there's a
and-
Guadalupe or something like that in Richmond.
Guadalupe, yeah.
Yeah, there's one in that's a very historical church in Catholic church in Richmond.
Mhm.
And they have a
Oh,
huge.
that's the name of the church, yeah.
Mhm.
A lot of our Catholic churches all over the country have an alcove or a chapel
Yeah.
or something with the devotion and a statue of
Mhm.
Guadalupe, as the Hispanic
Hispanic,
of the
yes.
churches grow. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So should that be introduced?
I found that practically all children spend time in school on Martin Luther King, and I found that even starting as early as 5, that was a saint they actually got excited about.
Mhm.
And in the Episcopal Church, he's remembered on his day of martyrdom. So you kind of have 2 times a year when you can remember him. And I know a really catchy little song about it.
Oh, you're kidding. Are you going to sing it for us?
It's, Dr. King, Dr. King, Dr. King was a Christian leader. Dr. King, Dr. King, he had a dream. And then you can add, he dreamed everybody could hold hands together. Da, 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 da.
Mhm, mhm.
And you
Wow.
can vary the words a little, but it's catchy and the kids liked it.
Yeah, yeah. That's a fun way to learn about a saint. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, you said starting at about age 5.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
surprised.
Mhm.
Well, I think in kindergarten they
Yeah.
hear and maybe even earlier, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a great song.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Did a great job.
Mhm. That's right. Well, she has to drink her beer. Well, how about then moving on to level 2, where we have a little more latitude. I still think it's mostly about Jesus. I think the kids come into level 2 knowing his birth, his death, the Last Supper. But boy, there's a lot to fill in. And they really want to know a lot about Jesus. They really love Jesus and they're not finished. So it's not quite time to say, now let's look at this person and this person and this person and this person.
Mhm, mhm.
Really stick with focusing on Jesus. And so again, it's the people who come in and out of Jesus's life that get the most exposure, in the Gospels as we read them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Our church does a big thing on pet blessing, and so St. Francis kind of,
Mhm.
Mhm.
we know a little bit about St. Francis, and I've had a couple of times when they've spent some time reading. You can get, so there's some lovely picture books and things that you can
Yeah.
bring
Yeah.
out.
A lot of books. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If children know a saint, when I talk to a group, it seems like that's the one more kids have heard of
Mhm.
and have a sense of. And, their sense of communion with all of creation, including all the animals, not just people, is really embodied by St. Francis. And so I think that's why they really like
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Mhm.
So do you have any observance on All Saints? I mean, scheduled this for now, so people could be thinking about that in level 2.
Yeah, Our church is All Saints.
Oh, well, tell us what you do.
We really,
Tell us.
it's the kids participate in all the stuff that the congregation does, and it's we do a lot of memorial of the All Souls, really.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Just one of the things that we do is to take neon colored paper and cut it into triangles, which are referred to as flags in our congregation, and write names and sometimes even include pictures and things like that of loved ones that they want prayer for, and they're strung through the sanctuary.
Mm.
So that on All Saints Day, and then for a while later, there is this huge sort of cloud of witnesses
Mhm.
that is really lovely, and people take time to walk through it and meditate on and read the prayers, and so that has the sense of we are all saints, because we're all saints.
Mhm, mhm. We are all saints.
And so there's that aspect that our children are exposed to more than almost anything else until they get older.
Yeah.
And I think in a time like COVID, having that very tangible remembrance of all these people around us, especially in my congregation, which has we have a lot of minority, high risk folk, and we've lost a good number of people. And so that's pretty, I like that idea of the tangibility and the entrance into the communion in a very visible way for kids.
Yeah.
Well, there are saints amongst these flags. I mean, people put up Martin Luther King, put up not Pope Francis, but John Paul, and lots of Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah. Do you have a picture of this?
I think I do. Yeah, I probably. I'm not going to try to juggle it right now, but
no. But if you could email it to me, I have you all in the same email thread, and I can forward it to you. I'm curious to see what that looks like. Yeah.
Our parish has traditionally had. We collaborate with St. Paul's K Street, and we haven't done it in about 5 years, but I think we're getting ready to start again, where one parish hosted a big musical high mass on St. All Saints, and one did it on All Souls. So the two parishes join together and come, and you hear like Fore's Requiem or whatever. But something we've done in recent years when we haven't been like up to that, we had a huge loss in our parish about 5 years ago. But we invited people to bring in pictures of loved ones and place them on the altar for All Souls. So we had an auxiliary altar that we used, and that was a lovely thing. With COVID, obviously, that would be another lovely thing. And then also, if we're introducing the Fiducia to children in the fall of the year, that's a natural place to start talking about what happens in Parousia. We had a couple of children who lost parents in the school, and that led to a huge conversation about my Nana died, or my Abuita died, or and so students would talk about their loved ones and Parousia. There were a lot of theories about, it was very high level theology about where they were now. And I didn't really offer a great deal. I'm not a Roman Catholic, I'm an Episcopalian, and I know it's in the 39 articles, but But I didn't offer a great deal. I just
Yeah.
asked what they thought, but certainly they knew that at the moment of parousia, they would be joined with
Yeah.
the people they were mourning now.
So I'm wondering if beyond the people in the life of Jesus, at level 2 is more appropriate to think about all souls before really thinking about all saints. What do you think? Except for you, Polly.
Well, yes, because we're dealing with in second plane, we are really wrestling with death and dying and the permanence of death and dying and all of that. And
Mhm,
so kind of finding a resolution in Christ
mhm,
in what is and what will be, that we are still in
mhm,
communion with these people,
mhm,
and we will be in further communion with them in a more tangible way at one point in time. And another point
mhm,
is a pretty, I think, a necessary conversation on some level.
mhm.
Mhm.
So I'm
Heading in
thinking
the
again,
direction.
in a month, we'll have these 2 days together, and so in level 2 might be an opportunity for the children to name family, neighbors, friends, church members who have passed.
Us as Baptists, what we do is we have a large senior ministry. 96% of our members are seniors,
Mhm,
and we do a senior anniversary every year. And at that point, we present and have a memorial for those who have passed. And the family can share with us what they'd like us to present, and we light a candle and we do a
Mhm.
ceremony. And we always talk about the circle will never be unbroken.
mhm, mm.
Mhm.
Hmm. Well, that's an interesting thought to pursue. Rather, I was going for the saints, but maybe the souls.
Souls,
It's a good place to start for level
is a
2.
nice connection.
Yeah, yeah.
I think in the Episcopal Church, the 2 days have gotten conflated and people relate to people they know. So we did something similar to what Polly did. We hung long ribbons down the sides of the banners, and people could pin anything they wanted, usually photographs, but just like Polly was saying, some of them were things they had printed off the internet of favorite holy good people. Some of them were family members.
Mhm.
Children might draw a picture,
Mhm.
but a lot of it was people in their own lives. And that
Mm.
out of which is just such a wonderful image to give them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just checking to see, and I haven't found it yet, to see if they're actually on sale. But I read today in our local paper about some stamps that are coming out, a set of 4 around All Souls,
Really?
around the Days of the Dead for, I believe it's a Mexican artist.
Mhm.
And they were talking about, he's from Minnesota at the moment. And so he had a display, I think in Chicago several years ago. Somebody saw his work and then when this came up, contacted.
Mhm.
So, and they're beautiful. I mean, they're scary,
Wow. Yeah.
but they're beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and what he did was make one in the image of a mother, father, son, daughter.
Mhm.
It's a family of stamps.
Wow.
One thing that I've observed in my 9 to 12 atrium recently is different denominations and different cultures have very, very different ideas of what happens to people when they're dead.
Mm.
There's been a little dynamic going on for several years now among a group of girls who are now aged into the level 3 atrium. But we saw this going on in the level 2 atrium and probably before. But some of these children really feel the presence of ghosts.
Mm.
And, you know, I realized when they came into our new atrium space and we were walking around it, that one of the children said, "Are you telling me this place is haunted?" And it wasn't me telling her this place was haunted, but she had a feeling. And I immediately recognized that they were going to egg each other on. And usually 3 years ago, it always ended in tears. So I said, well, what is it you're feeling? Well, I feel like chills down my spine. And I said, you know, many people, we're in a sacred space. We're in a church grounds. This is the school part, but the atrium is a place where we really try to draw near to God. And many people, when they feel that they are very open to God, may have a physical sensation that can feel like chills or, you know, an opening sensation. She said, no. It could be a fallen angel or Satan or the devil. And I said, oh, then you feel that you're not safe in that situation. I said, whenever I feel like I'm in peril, I ask God for help. And these girls immediately put their hands out in a prayer position from their culture and started saying the whole protection against evil spirits. That, I mean, they're Christians, they're Orthodox Christians, but it's the relationship to the dead or to spirits is so immediate in that culture that I thought it was a wonderful moment. And I thought we have to be really sensitive to what's going on, because you may have a child who's a mystic, you know.
Now, Tori and I are in the same atrium, but the school is on the grounds of an 85-acre cemetery. It's the oldest one in Washington. It's on Episcopal grounds.
Yeah.
And so we've got, you know, senators from the first Senate buried there, and Edgar Allan Poe's family and so on. So it's pretty interesting.
So, you know, we have to sort of, you know, make the creepy comfortable.
Yeah, they're pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
So,
Well, my question.
if I say to kids in level 2, who is somebody holy? Who are some holy people? They are looking for more formal or recognized saints. But when they ask about parousia, you're totally right, Tori. They talk about, well, I see my grandmother who died before I was born. I mean, they're asking those very personal questions. And that's what's good news about the parousia too. So it's kind of a mix. But when I say, can you name some holy people? The names I get back are Tutu, Martin Luther King, Gandhi. It's so interesting. Some aren't Christian. Some are, you know, they're certainly not in their own church. It's, you know, and none of that counts for anything. It's just, you know, do they seem holy, whatever holy means to them. And sometimes some local people like that all the kids might know in common, they would name someone like that too.
Have y'all had any experience with the children who do have churches with cemeteries on the grounds, you know, and inquiring questions and wondering questions about that?
Yeah.
We don't have, you know, a cemetery on our church.
Yeah, DeVette's church has a small cemetery.
She does have
the atrium looks out on it.
Yes, she has a small one.
Yeah.
The kids, when I was doing the level 1 there, it didn't seem to faze them at all.
Elizabeth, what about the culture you're working with? You're muted.
Sorry, we have a lot of reverence for the elders, a lot of reverence for those who have been in the past, a lot of recognition of the holiness of some of those people, and quite a sense of them being in conversation
Mm.
with members of the community, or at least with other people that are entering becoming an elder. There is kind of a hierarchy of who gets kind of to hear from grandma, or great grandma. And you might be hearing, but we got to train your ears to hear. I don't know how it quite goes.
We don't like what you're
And there's
hearing.
good and bad with that, right? There's a
Mhm.
level of gatekeeping there that
Mhm.
might be unhealthy. And it's an interesting space to stand back in and watch, having come from um, a very rigid fundamentalist background, fundamentalist Baptist background, where the Holy Spirit stopped doing anything and saints never existed to start with. So what are y'all talking about? We're all saints. But let's not worship anybody, because we're not supposed to worship anybody but God. So you kind of get this like weird vibe growing up. So I'd say, yeah, I hadn't really thought about it like in the quantifying them kind of as saints, but that's definitely how they're viewed within a lot of the community that I'm standing within at this point. Yeah. I will now kind of take that piece of thought on board.
Well, Kathleen, as an African American minister and living in the community of Richmond with a lot of crime and trauma, a lot of our children are being shot when these people, gangs are shooting at each other. The projects, one project against another project, and the kids get shot. So we deal with a lot of trauma and a lot of pain. And I'm thankful we do have a center that deals with child saving, and it deals with a lot of immediate trauma. And a lot of our churches of all faiths come together to try to support that. This pregnant women get shot, small children, an infant baby in a crib in her house, the bullet goes through the window. I mean, it is amazing. It's almost every other day.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's climbing in cities all over the country, sadly. Yeah.
And I have a niece that is, well, she's 30 now, but her mother died at 3, and she's severely challenged. And I wrestle with, how do you help her to understand she never knew her mother? You know, she was 3 and she's nonverbal. She has a genetic chromosome defect during fetal birth and left her nonverbal and severely autistic, sensory and seizures. But would you believe the Lord just directed me to just inundate her with prayers, children's songs, and scripture, Bible stories. She was very hyperactive, and all of a sudden became extremely calm, very sensitive to music, cannot read, write, or speak, but plays the harp. And just started talking at 29. And now she's just bubbling over with words. And my question to the Lord was, what am I supposed to do now that I took her to raise her? And I believe we're all made in your image, and you got to tell me how to do this. And he immediately told me that his spirit is in every child, and it's up to us to activate it. And told me to study her. And I'm saying, look, I'm coming to you after 2 years of observing her, and nothing's happening here. And
tell me what to do.
Go back and look at her again. When I did study her for a week after that, she has the gift of joy. Wakes up every morning pleasant, joyful, and no concern. Just states, eat. She doesn't say, did you go shopping? Are you cooking anything? Eat, right. If she can get it out, So I wrestle with, do I discuss, the death of her mother? what? She's not understanding, even though you've tried to break it down really low, because I've talked to many children in the military. We've had to talk to family members of theirs dying and stuff, but to do it for a severely intellectually challenged individual, it is a challenge.
Mhm, mhm.
But
Juanita, it sounds like you have both been blessed.
oh, I think I've been blessed more than she has. And the congregation has been blessed also.
Yeah.
Individuals will come up to me and say that I've had one minister whose mother died. And she said, I didn't feel like coming to church today, but I'm glad I did. Took one look at Sade and to see her deficits and to see the joy that she demonstrates to us at the church, I'm glad to be here.
Mhm.
And so I started writing down these comments that people say, because I said, this is interesting, because I recognize it. It just reinforced what I was saying to the Lord, that I know that she's full of joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a blessing for your parish or your congregation to be able to know so closely
Yes.
somebody who is differently wired,
Yes.
and to see that joy and see that, all that goes on in what to a casual observer might be not much going on.
Sure.
Yeah. So
At the beginning, the children were frightened, because she's a big girl. And she was at that time 8 years old when I joined this other church. And so they did not understand, why can't she talk, that kind of thing. And, why was she sitting with the younger? She gravitates toward the younger children. And they would say, oh, I got to get out of her way. I don't know what's going on with her. And part of our, catechesis, we, immediately said we were all made in God's image and we love one another. And so, and then one little boy was a little rough, and he would try to say, well, we can't play with her because something's wrong with her. And so I started spending time with him, and I said, something, Jeremiah, come on, let's sit down. Let me show you in the Bible, your name is in the Bible. Because he was very, very, he was just running up and down the church and wouldn't listen to anybody. And I said, I want you to come into my catechesis room and let's just spend some time together. And that's when I told him that, we're all made in God's image, and he loves you and loves her also. And she's not going to harm you. She's okay. And I really think what happened is we should have never separated our children like we did.
Yeah.
That was a lesson to be learned. And so my pastor is a Hebrew scholar. And so he immediately, when I accepted the church, because he was my Old Testament seminary teacher. And so I joined his church when I relocated to Richmond, and he immediately held a meeting with the church, and we presented her illness and what to expect and how to communicate with her. And it went well. And so people are very, interactive with it. But I still wrestle with, what do you do with, sharing that with her? And
I had a girl's mother bring her to my cadet troop. So it would have been, around 7, 8 years old. The mother had decided to homeschool her because she was being put in special ed. And she said, my daughter learns by being with people and imitating what they're doing. So if she's put aside in the special ed group, she's going to remain autistic forever and never learn any behaviors that are normal. So we had a number of things that we did as a troop, but by the end of the year, she had identified a girl that was littler than her physically, whom she loved to hug. And this was a child who was not, she had some words, but not a participator and not a toucher. And it was, I think, a blessing for everybody in the group to be able to see that yes, this child has her strengths, and what she is normal, just like me, I might have to wear glasses, I might have sickle cell, I might be adopted or whatever, and she has autism. Big deal. But so
So this
back
brings
into
me to
Sade.
this brings me to the question of, people with disabilities do not get mentioned when we talk about saints or holy people.
Yeah.
And yet they lead many to holiness.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
They do.
So I don't know if we could be more aware when people are naming different holy people,
Mm-hmm.
naming people with disabilities
There,
that
there is a
might be well
tradition.
known, or that are in your own life, or that are in the school community.
Mhm.
community. Because I do
And
think it's true.
even service people, because when I got stationed in Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, I took her to the summertime. It was when we arrived there, and I went to a Catholic summer camp and they took her in,
Mhm.
and those individuals, they were 5 and 6 years old, and she was 9. And they were so protective of her. They would run up to me every day when I got there and said, I took care of Sade today. When the teacher told her to stand, I helped her to stand up, and I watched her on the parking, at the park. And so it was really neat. And I realized that inclusion was really necessary.
Yeah. Well, there's one material I want to mention. I don't know if you have it, or if you have it in level 2 or level 3, but it's the one called 2000 Years.
Mm.
And it was developed for level 3. And I don't think it was really fully developed. Jonna sort of slapped it together, and Ann Garrido redrew it quite beautifully. And someone gave me one that she had colored in. So it was just ready to put on a shelf. And we're like, well, what shelf are we going to put this on? After much thought, I decided I didn't want it in level 3. I wanted it in level 2. And I wanted it as an expansion of that little yellow time that represents redemption.
Yeah.
On the fatuccia, because it really doesn't say anything about us. It just says something about Jesus. Well, here's Jesus and here's us, but what's in between? I mean, there's not even an in between visually, right? And so I thought, by the time they get to the blue strip, we could also unroll that and say, there have been many, 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 many people who are followers of Jesus. One of the names for them is Christian. One of the names for them is saints, and just begin to say, just to get a visual image of how big the communion of saints is. I'm thinking of the communion of saints, which is an image we use in liturgy. It's bigger than our parish. It's bigger than our city. It's big in both time and space. And so that's not naming individuals, but it's sort of a nice introduction, I think, to the idea of the communion of saints, and that we're part of a really big, big worshiping community, much bigger than the ones in the room with us. So I don't know if you have done something with that material at another level. We're going to move into level 3 if you've used it there. What you've made of that.
Was that an Echo article, or what was that? The 2000 Years.
2000 Years is a material that John Agobi made, and it's a timeline about as long as the blue strip. Is it that long? And it just goes from Jesus to the current day, and then to parousia, like the other timelines do. But all it is people, in different clothing and different times, different cultures, and so on. I mean, I found the copy that we were given was pretty white. So we actually did take that off the shelf to redo, to make it more inclusive. But the idea of all these people, stretching through this amount of time, I think gives something some clarity about that 2000 years, you know, that little yellow thing represents.
And there's a whole thing to their other, the rules all in this age, especially in level 2, in that early second plane, they're really into, do the rules apply to everyone equally?
Yeah.
And if we're talking about writing, that you have pages to write in this book, isn't this amazing? You get to add.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to see that other people have also throughout time, instead of just saying other people throughout time have done this, you're like, and look,
Yeah.
we can go see
Yeah.
what they've written in the kingdom of God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's really not much of a work. It's more of a visual, almost like the posters and the great lessons of Montessori, you know, just to give you an impression of something.
Mhm.
But yeah, you could get that out then again at All Saints or All Souls Day. And again, these are people who live, these are people who follow Jesus, these are, you know, and just.
Yeah, the version that I have of it, you can actually kind of identify people. You know, if you know that like St. Francis is about X time, you can go along that.
Yes.
You can find somebody in a Franciscan robe.
Yes.
And so in the past, that was what I was taught to do with it when I saw the presentation first, was
Mm-hmm.
would present it in the context of saints, and that
Mm-hmm.
you could look at this and begin to think about
Yeah.
some one. And I agree with you, it is too white. And I did add certainly a figure for Martin Luther King.
Right.
Personally drew
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, when you think of, you know, the church in India dating back to St. Thomas, you know, where is that? That should be on there. You know,
Where are the South Asian saints?
Yes.
That's the problem with much of our stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
So we're trying not to duplicate that in our new materials. So doing a little bit of cleaning up.
One of the things that Jody Beth would do is ask children to choose something or some fact that they want their level 2 students to call, you know, classmates to know about the saint, and just, you know, pick up, you know, a picture or a card or a prayer, you know, of St. Francis, and just lay it on 1122 to whatever, just lay it on that place on the 2000 years. And so we had a lot of children putting, you know, just like symbols of their saint, or, you know, a piece of paper with their saint's name and dates on the 2000 years. It's very good for that.
Post-its work really well for that.
Oh, yeah.
What?
So our Post-its. So our strip 2000 years is covered, you know, and then you debate about whether you're going to leave last year's on or
No, they're tired saints. They're tired of it. Are you doing that in level 3 or 2, Polly?
in 3.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I had, sort of my one, okay, you want to do saints? Well, we can use
Here
this.
we go. Yeah. All right. Now listen to this. I was thinking about where saints come up in level 3, and there's actually a few more places. So in the prayers of intercession,
Mhm.
okay, we're praying both for the dead and for the communion of saints, or with the communion of saints. In 2000 years, in the memorial with all those people going down the sides. Elizabeth, I'm sorry you haven't had this yet. Just make a note.
But he wants advice. I need advice on level 3 training,
There you
so
go.
feel free.
And also in the virtues, where saints are some of the stories of that material. And so it is spreading now, you know, like level 3 seems to be the age where Sophia realized this would be helpful. When I think about it, I think, you know, these children love Jesus and they adore Jesus, but they also know that they are not Jesus. So having saints is helpful to them to say, okay, I may not be Jesus, but I can be a follower, right? I can be a disciple. And these other people who have struggled to be also to be his followers, you know, can be models and friends for me. And so I think at that point, I just don't think the 6 to 9-year-olds are worried about being Jesus, but the 9 to 12-year-olds, as they're sorting out vocation and different things like that, that is more of a question. I'm not Jesus, I'm not even Mary, so who am I gonna, who's like me that has done this and taken it serious.
Mhm.
And so begin to pop up more and more in level 3. Now, the resource I brought is a series of books by Peg Burns called Nonviolent Followers of Jesus. And I'm just going to show you the whole pile. This is how many they wrote. And these are very short biographies of people in the last 2,000 years who recognized the nonviolent choices of Jesus in choosing to die on the cross. And heal the ear of the servant, that came to arrest him, and other things like that. And then, men and women who have passed that down in a very faithful way. So it's a particular focus on Jesus, in the aspect of nonviolence, but includes Mother Teresa, Esquivel, Charlie McCarthy, who's an Orthodox priest, Zabelka Del Vasto, some of you may know these names. So people from various countries, various places, various denominations. Trevor Farrell as a kid, Gordon Zahn, and they just tell a little bit about it. But they're on their timeline, they have a golden chain, and what they're trying to say is this gift of Jesus is passed down through these people. And we know about it because of their faithfulness to it. And then they have a series of, actually I cut these little, they could be popsicle sticks, mine are more square, where you put the light that are equal, cut in lengths, equal to their lifespan, proportionate to whatever timeline you're putting it on. So if we have it on the plan of God and someone lived 100 years, it wouldn't be very long. But then you can see how they overlap in time, and how this golden chain then,
Did you bring one of those saint sticks with you?
I didn't know. I just grabbed the booklets.
Yeah.
But this is a nice pile of booklets just to start with, if you're looking for,
Can you put the resource in the chat?
Yeah. Yes, I will do that.
Mhm.
And Peg Burns she's a Montessori teacher and a catechist, and her husband is as well. And they have been working on this for like 40 years.
Yeah.
And she's happy to give it away, unless you want printed material. But if you want files, she'll just send them to you. She's really very, very generous with it. So
Where is she located?
she's in St. Louis? No, it's Kansas City, I think. Kansas City, Missouri. I hope this is still her email. It's on the back of the book.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think she called this the whole big project. I think she called the golden chain or something like that, going back to that image.
Mhm.
But the topic is, the non-violent followers of Jesus.
Mhm.
So she developed many resources, but this is the one that most easily came into the atrium for us. So
Do it. I'm out of,
Level 3.
we have those in level 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
do you,
One
Go
of the
ahead.
ways we used that was to make, I actually went and bought like half-inch wooden square dowels at Lowe's, and I had children actually sawing. That was pretty tedious, and sanding off, and then writing on one side the saint's name, on another side the country, another side the dates, and then just like, something, a fact that you'd like your person to know. So Catherine had started that, and we actually have a pretty hefty basket somewhere right now of
Well, I
the,
know they're on the shelf with the history of Christianity.
uh-huh.
So on the history of Christianity, which is another work we we developed and sell, you have a pretty good 2,000-year, timeline where these wooden sticks, would be significant in terms of the
Mhm.
wouldn't work as well on the plan of God because the scale is so much.
It actually is really close between the history of Christianity timeline and the 2,000 years for some reason. I don't know why, but they seem to work pretty well on both.
Yeah.
Of course, I had some pretty wild measurements, Maria Montessori had a thing this long and also a thing that long.
Oh, working out the math.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
It's good
that's
for
one
their
of the
math
books I
skills to
have. And
figure out
then
how long they are.
Devet found 3 books and I didn't see them. I don't know where they are, Tori. This is our post-COVID, materials went every which way last year.
We're
Devet gave me
reassembling
3
them.
books. One is The Words of Mother Teresa. And every page is a beautiful quote in beautiful calligraphy with some black and white photo behind it or near it, or, so it's both art and words. And one, The Words of Martin Luther King. And the third is Gandhi, I think.
I remember those books.
They're beautiful books, and the kids have done a lot of copying out of them, when after they learn calligraphy. So we have to find them and get them back on the shelf, Victoria.
I've seen them. I know that they were heading towards the shelf at some point and they may have wound up in the closet again, but I'll find them.
Okay.
I know I have the book of the Lord's Prayer in many, many languages.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful book. Do most of you have that?
Mhm.
I found that was very creative.
Mhm.
Then we had a little boy in our school. Well, actually, he got to the 6th grade there. His name was Kieran. And we found this lovely biography of Saint Kieran. So occasionally you can add a book just because you have a child, especially a child with an unusual name. You wonder where did that name come from? So this has it's a nice picture book and story of Saint Kieran. So a few of our saint books are, like that of individuals, and then others are groups. But we do have a collection of resources about saints for kids to look up saints. And so when we get to level 3, we do start to work on All Saints Day. And I have asked kids to do a thing. It's sort of like a report, but what I say to them is, if I want to bring my friend to school, or you want to bring your friend to school, and you're going to introduce them to your class, to your friends one at a time, are you going to give their whole history? How will you introduce them? And you might say, this is Jody. She flew here from Michigan. She loves sailing. You want to put out information that you think will entice your friends to learn more about her and to connect to her. And so I said, this is what I want you to do with the saint that you choose. Just say, this is Saint Agnes. She was 13, when she made her act of faith or whatever. And then at the bottom, I would like to ask Saint Agnes to help me with. And because these kids are all social and they all help each other. And I say, if you need help with math, who are you going to ask? Somebody who knows math, right? And so we have saints who are skilled at certain things and can help us with certain things. And so I'm trying to help them see how they sort of live in the economy of the church, as helpers, not people to be adored, but to pray, we can pray, we can petition as friends, you figured this out, help me figure this out, and then after the children each give their little introduction to their friend, then we make a litany, and they each say the name of the saint that they introduced, and then everyone in the group says, pray for us. And so that's our little Saints Day observation that I have used in recent years.
I have a lot of these kind of things that I pick up when I travel to New Mexico.
Mhm.
And some of them are just, you could make just a shiny frame, an aluminum foil covered shape. And there are lots of like prayer cards. These are just prayer cards stuck onto.
Mhm.
I think my St. Francis prayer card I got at somebody's funeral.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. One little girl she decided to introduce us to oh my gosh, I can't think of her name right now. It just flew out of my head. But she's in South America. Anyway, she came to Atrium dressed like this.
Like Frida Kahlo or
No, it was a saint. It is a saint. Rose of Lima. That's who it was.
Rose of Lima.
Rose of Lima.
Mhm.
And she told us her story. And it was very sweet. And I didn't ask her to do that. I didn't ask any of them to do that, but she just was so taken with it. That's what she did. And then one of them, her name was Cecilia, one of the girls. And so she wanted to research Saint Cecilia, and she's a Mennonite. She's like, all these saints, all these girls were either raped or killed, I mean. And so then she's telling me about Saint Cecilia. Well, she'd introduced her to the group, and basically Saint Cecilia was going to be put to death because she was a follower of Jesus. She managed to convert her husband, convert her mother-in-law, and convert the judge who was going to kill her. And so at the bottom, she said, I would like Saint Cecilia to help me with persuading people. So we've had some fun, but
we used to do a lovely thing, which I guess would be confusing in an atrium context, but I just want to tell you about it. And maybe some of you have done it. We called it a Feast of Lights, and we did it for Epiphany. And we'd have a dinner, and then we designate different areas of the room as different continents. And start out in the dark, and you'd read the prologue of John and light the Christ candle, and then name the 12 apostles, and people from the tables would come and light candles. And then you'd talk about the people who took the faith to different continents, and they'd go out into the dark room with their candles. And we were able to research a couple of the really early Anglican missionaries that came into our area, and just a few lines about how they went out into the woods on horseback and baptized people. And then bishops, and brought it right up to our congregation until the light, had spread in the room. And it was just a really moving experience. And it fits with everything we're talking about. I mean, the older children did it when I was growing up. But anyway, the image, of course, fits with our light imagery. And
right. Spreading the light.
Yeah.
So one of the things in level 3 that I took issue with as soon as I saw it were the yellow sails on the plan of God, discovering America, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, what's the deal with these yellow sails? And they're like, oh, they're bringing the faith to America. Well, I'm like, well, do you know what else they did? When they brought those ships over, I mean, it's very mixed, very mixed. So the missionaries are all entwined with all that, and that's what I would worry about, Catherine. Like, how would you manage that? Yeah.
And missionaries are mostly white,
Yeah. And then, of course, the indigenous religions of those places were kind of stomped out, and many are lost. So I mean, I want to make room for that. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't know what to do with that. I can see how the image would work of spreading the light. I mean, it's really what we see at the liturgy of the light, right?
A couple of years ago, when we were doing hands-on Buddhism, I noticed that it was a Buddhist festival of Kuan Yin, who was a bodhisattva.
Mhm.
And so somebody who had risen to the level of becoming enlightened, but decided to stay on earth to help others to become enlightened. And so I just did it. I can't find it right now. It's on Google Classroom, and Google Classroom is like, are you DeVette Hines? And I'm like, no. But that is an example of a non-Christian, a non-Abrahamic saintliness
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
that and, you know, we had a nice discussion about her. I think she changes sex from various, you know, from you know, in various cultures in Hinduism and Buddhism. But the
Yeah.
idea that you would lay down your enlightenment for the sake of
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
That is.
Yeah, that image, Catherine, could be rephrased as, you know, thinking of people who carry light,
Mhm.
you know, to different places in the world. I mean, even today, it could be anytime, you know, it could be anybody, but, you know, just,
Yeah.
you know, a sharing of light that,
Mhm.
and spreading of light.
But I like something you said earlier, or someone said about how it comes to us that we're connected to all these people, and that it in a practical way, there were real people, you know, the past rector,
Yes.
this
Yeah.
church people we've known that brought us here.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Anyway, that would be my only concern.
Mhm.
kind of a big one.
A kind of a big one, yeah, of how to do that without triggering that, all that, you know.
Yeah.
It's interesting that, you know, certainly the conquista and other aspects of missionary work have been very complicated. On the other hand, one of the reasons that it's worked to the extent that it has is that cultures have been able to just sort of, you know, on the feast of St. Augustine, Sandia Pueblo goes to mass in the church, and then they have their corn dances, I think it is, in the plaza. So many of the same kinds of religious intentions get bound up in that. And I think we're maybe beginning to see a recognition in cultures that, yes, you know, you had these missionaries come to your culture, but now we can embrace the whole culture a little bit more, a little bit less reluctantly. I think we saw a lot of missionaries come and say, you know, this indigenous culture is, you know, just garbage. You know, we've got to bring light to these savages. And people are beginning to look at it now and go, well, yeah, we can reject this and this and this, but perhaps this is worth keeping. And so I'm very hopeful that what I see in pueblos and may become more sort of, I don't know, this is my past and I can accept this and criticize that.
Mhm.
Does that, I mean, does that sound really Hidalgo and insensitive? Or does that make any sense?
No, I think that's true, as long as the people doing that work are the people,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
of the land, like, you know, not the white people saying, let me fix this mistake I made 500 years ago, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
Can't erase agency from
yeah.
people to make choices to
Right.
some degree. And there's a pretty hearty debate that goes on inside the Gullah culture around rejection of Christianity. And it tends to center around, wait, I have the agency. My ancestors had some level of agency
Yeah.
to maintain an individuality, we celebrate. We have a whole opera that they actually performed last year here. That is Ibn Syed, who maintained his Islamic faith throughout his time as a slave.
Mhm.
But you also have to allow people to have agency within their space. But that is also very much brought about by not by me declaring agency.
Yeah.
In that moment.
Mhm. I gave a course in Taiwan this summer via Zoom, and Catherine, you're going to love this because you had that conversation about language and the catechesis. And I said, we chose, well, Sophia chose for us, but chose the name Catechesis of the Good Shepherd for the catechesis. And the word catechesis triggers the word catechism for most people, which is the opposite of what we're trying to do. And so it's a very unfortunate name choice. And I said, here you are, picking the name of this work for Chinese speaking people. Choose carefully. Don't pick catechesis. I mean, they have a word, that's a translation, but it means the exact same thing to us, that it meant to them. And so I'm like, yeah, pick something else. They were laughing. I said, I don't know Chinese. I can't help you, but
what they're calling it.
there are fixes that could be made as it moves into a new language and a new culture. So
I have a couple of level 3 things ish.
Mhm.
In the midst of the beginning of COVID last year, my kids that are level 3 wanted to meet, but we had nothing to really aim us in the direction of, and we were starting Lent when I finally could pull something together. And so every Thursday we would meet and I would tell them the story of 4 saints. And I did Bonhoeffer because in our world that is a pretty common one generally to know. I told them the story of Oscar Romero, Saint Cyril of Jerusalem, and Perpetua and Felicity. And for the older kids who can handle, Perpetua and Felicity, that was great. My academic kids who are really into kind of intellectually meeting God right now, we're really into Saint Cyril since he's so into creation of understanding of our faith. Oscar Romero is my militant, active kids who will stand in defiance of everything. And then Dietrich Bonhoeffer is the quiet kid who just does right. And kind of spoke to those qualities that I recognized are pretty common within my community. And I had a 5th one to do, but the kids then wanted to hear, they asked for the first time to hear the story of Holy Week and kind of go into the death and resurrection that way. And so I had another email. Hold on. I think it was Hildegard I had as my other.
Yeah.
Because my strong feminist girls would be all about Hildegard.
Right.
So I create this every year. I didn't do one for this year, but it's the liturgical calendar. And it has saints on them as well as what we're celebrating, because our kids don't know the liturgical calendar very well. And so we have Pentecost on there with a cake and, this is a growing time and that sort of thing. And so I have all these saints that they can go up and access that idea. And they kind of get into it because we have a book called The Saints in Art. So all the time that we're looking at all these images that are on the shelf, granted the book is mainly Western art. I have been looking for one that was a little broader. I don't have that. I also have a really stupidly expensive book that I got on sale for a stupidly inexpensive price on Ethiopian icons. That is incredible. But they get into it off of those sorts of we're looking at Pentecost, so they're like, so this is this symbol here is Mary. I know this is Mary in this image because she has a lily, and this has to be John because there's an eagle, you know. And so then they start doing their research in the book for these symbols as shortcuts to write almost these like cryptic cards to each other, you know, about their friends. And then they kind of expand it from there, and they'll go and look up, you know, we always do St. Francis and Teresa at the same time because I can have two for the price of one. And we get to talk about what does it mean to basically for your habit to stand up on its own because you've sewed so many patches that it is now twice as heavy as it was when you started out. So we kind of mess with that a good bit in level 3 because our kids don't have I'd say 90% of my kids have no Christian background whatsoever when they come in. And so that helps them connect to like, there are practices that Christians do. We pray, we help the poor, you know, these very, very fundamental ways of dealing with it. The other, and I have the little bios and some of the questions on my blog. I put them up for the kids who couldn't be there because they asked for it. I can put that up. The other thing that, the last thing is there's an interesting book written by one of my parents called Cyborg Saints.
Whoa.
And she is an English professor who loved saints and would sit when Harry would wake up in the middle of the night when he was a toddler and read him the stories of the saints. And then she was asked to start reviewing some young adult fiction. And she found out there is an entire genre of these kind of neo-saints. And so she does an analysis of these neo-saints and traditional reasons why we have saints and kind of really helps you start bridging that mental space between why the Marvel universe has so much power right now because it tells us these stories about ourselves. What does it say? Something in here. They're living through a life that is they're living their lives in a vulnerable way to others. They obtain a distributive agency that can accomplish miracles through bodies and places and things like relics, icons, pilgrimages, sites, and ultimately hagiographical texts. And it spreads across time. And so she kind of is tying this whole genre of young adult literature into why telling the stories of saints is so important for this age group, what it conveys to them as they're entering an ethical phase of their life in level 3.
Yeah. I know we had one boy, we had the Book of Virtues, which is a 2-inch thick book.
Yeah.
He read the whole thing over a 3-year period in the atrium. There are kids who do read, and so having some good reading material, that really was his work, was to read. So did you put that in? Good. All right. So all know you can save your chat by going to the 3 little dots at the bottom, and one of them says save chat, and then you'll have all these resources in your own desktop. Okay.
One of the things children did last year for Saints Reports was 3 of our Ethiopian girls. Well, I think it was more than that. I think they recruited like several families into making a video explaining several Ethiopian saints and what they were like. They dressed up and they did it outside, and it was just like, it was fabulous. I will try and find it, Catherine, and send you a clip.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah. And then the year before that, we had asked, I think, the priest at the church if he had any books on Ethiopian saints. So we got Saint Tekla.
Yeah.
She's Ethiopian. I know her story. I never heard that she was Ethiopian.
Who?
Saint Tekla.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
It might have been a different Saint Tekla, because
Perhaps.
my memory is it's a he. Yeah.
Oh, I'm talking about the woman.
Yeah.
The statues of the apostles on St. Peter's above, it's on the roof, 12 stories up. There's one woman up there, and her name is Tekla.
Tekla. Oh, wow. That
Yeah.
would be a terrific saint.
She's a very fun saint. She baptized herself because St. Paul wouldn't. So she's like, forget that. Threw herself in a big water cistern. Yeah. Okay, well, this concludes our conversation. I am very grateful that you came. I am learning a lot from you and have some ideas to carry forward. So I'm really appreciating everything everyone was able to share here. Were you able to get your chat saved so you could have those resources? Yeah.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think so. I don't know where the folder is, but
And if you have something you really want to get to this
Where
particular
do we
group.
find that? Yeah, where do we find that after I know about the 3 dots?
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
What do you do now?
oh, do you have your
if
chat?
you open up chat,
Can you see the chat?
I see the chat and I clicked on it to save it, but where would I go back to
where it
it?
says type message here, there's a little file and a smiley face and 3 dots, or at least on my machine there is.
Yeah, so when I save dots, hit the file and hit it.
It means how do you find it again?
I don't know how to find
Get
it.
off of this, how would I get back to this little save chat?
That will be on your computer's directory, in your directory, on your desktop.
Okay, on your desktop, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I haven't, and I don't think it'll do it. I can't see a way to do it.
Mm,
But I wrote them down.
okay.
Oh, you got it? You got it just by writing it down. Okay. Anyway, if you have some great resource you want to get to the group, if you hit reply all to the email, the last email I sent today, except Elizabeth, I don't think you were on it. Or you could send it to me and I'll get it to everybody.
I was a latecomer today.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure.
You were lucky I even noticed your name.
I was gonna tell you that one of the things that we do at our Mustard Seed Atrium is that the seniors save their Christmas cards that have the scriptures and beautiful pictures and things, and we use that in our prayer box. For those kids who cannot speak or whatever, they might be so happy with the picture and say, this is what I want to say to God, or this is what I want to pray about. So we collect some beautiful cards and we laminate them and put them in the prayer box.
Nice.
Anita, which part of Richmond are you in?
I am in Henrico County, and my church is in really, one side of the building is in Richmond and one side is in Henrico County.
And what's the name of your parish? Your
Providence Park Baptist Church.
okay. I have good friends that live up on Churchill.
Oh, yes, that's not far from us. I'm right off of Laburnum and by the racetrack.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, Willis
About
and Amy.
140
I'll
years.
mention them and tell because they were in my atrium when they lived in Charleston, and then they moved up to Richmond, and their kids haven't had atrium or anything.
Oh, okay.
And Amy works with children who have. She was my sort of side catechist. She was my extra, and she ended up. She worked with my mom who had Alzheimer's in the Casa Atrium in the 3 to 6, and now teaches young people who have some needs due to different learning differences.
Thank
So
you.
she'd be Amy's. They're awesome. But anyway,
Amy is her name. Okay.
yep, Amy Weber.
Okay.
I forget. Willis runs an after-school nonprofit there that's kind of been there for a while, and I cannot remember what the nonprofit is now.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll see about hooking you guys up.
Thank you.
And I see the message that we should have a discussion of neurodivergent people, which
Yeah.
we need a good leader for. So, if any of you want to volunteer or recommend someone else, feel free.
Yeah, Catherine, I have a couple of ideas, but they're not catechists.
Anyway,
I have a
thank
couple
you.
of people who work with senior citizens who are experiencing,
Yeah. All right. Well, let's remember the blessing of all these saints that we mentioned tonight. And thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you to all of you. Good night.
I enjoyed it. Thank
Bye,
you.
Catherine. See ya.
Thanks for
Bye.
sharing.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.